The human sacrifices of the Aztec Empire remain one of the most disturbing legacies of pre-Columbian civilization in the Americas. Tens of thousands were ritualistically sacrificed to placate the gods in the most brutal of fashions. In today's video, we will look at the twisted history of Aztec human sacrifices and just why it was carried out on such a massive scale. It's perhaps helpful to start with what is meant by Aztecs. It's a catch-all term to include a number of city-states, the most powerful of which was the Mexica city of Tenochtitlan. This is what will likely come to mind when one thinks of the Aztecs, a bustling city overshadowed by the looming Mesoamerican pyramids where much of the human sacrifice would take place. For this video, we will focus on the human sacrifices carried out by the Mexica people. It's important to understand the Aztec religion. The Aztecs believed that they were living in a fifth iteration of the world. The 4 previous worlds had been destroyed by chaotic events, from hurricanes, consumed by jaguars, or engulfed in fire. The Aztecs believed that the world moved in cycles of destruction and rebirth. After the 4th world ended, the god Nanahuatzin sacrificed himself to create the sun. From then on, their god of sun and war, Huitzilopochtli, fought nightly against darkness, with each sunrise a sign of his victory. But if he failed, the 5th world would be destroyed in eternal darkness. It was believed that without the sacrifice of human blood and hearts, the sun would not be able to move across the sky, and darkness would take hold. And finally, their creation myth for humans also involved an element of sacrifice. They believed one of their gods ventured into the underworld for ancient bones, and then mixed them with his own blood to form humans. So in return, people owed a blood debt to the gods, who had given themselves so life could continue on Earth. These beliefs defined Aztec religion. For those being sacrificed to Huitzilopochtli, the process would be as follows. The human sacrifices would be brought to the stairs of the pyramid, the great Templo Mayor. A constant stream of captured warriors, the human sacrifices would make their way up the stairs to their fate. As they made their way up the temple, the bodies of those who had just been sacrificed would be thrown down, their blood coating the steps. Below, these discarded bodies would be butchered, the skulls removed, and various body parts used in other rituals. As the human to be sacrificed neared the top of the temple, they would no doubt witness the fate that would soon befall them. This human would then be laid onto the altar, and then a priest, wielding an obsidian knife, would cut through the chest of the victim. A hand would then be plunged into the chest cavity and rip out the still beating heart, to be held aloft to the sun and the gods. The heart was seen as the seat of life and energy, and being sacrificed in this manner, the Aztecs believed that they were returning this power back to the gods. The heart would then be burned in a brazier, and the ashes retained. Once the sacrifice was complete, the lifeless body would be thrown down the steps of the temple for the next victim to witness. The next sacrifice would then be brought forward. At the bottom of the temple, the corpse would be dismembered. They were flayed, the skin ritualistically removed, for the flayed god Totec. Often, the dismembered body parts were buried or fed to animals. But in some cases, members of the Aztec elite and those warriors who captured plenty of enemy warriors would engage in ritualized cannibalism. There are accounts that flesh from arms and thighs would be consumed. It was often shared with the warrior's close family in a stew. The name of this stew roughly translates to man stew. But the even more disturbing human sacrifices were reserved for the god of rain and agriculture, Tlaloc. Tlaloc did not need powerful warriors to be sacrificed. He required children. These were to be innocent victims. The child sacrifices were both boys and girls, aged between 6 months and 7 years old. Often, these were the enslaved children purchased specifically for the sacrificial ritual, though in some instances, children were actually donated by their parents. This would bring some honor to the family, and an opportunity for the child to obtain eternal life in Tlaloc's paradise. Tlaloc was believed to reside in the mountains, and so many of the sacrifices to him were brought to Mount Tlaloc. Others took place at the Templo Mayor, at the shrine atop. The children were sacrificed each year at the start of the agricultural calendar. The children would be painted blue, dressed in the regalia of the rain spirits, adorned with turquoise, feathers, and small bells. The children would form a procession to the sacrifice site, accompanied by priests and attendants. Tears were also a vital part of the process, both from those watching and the children themselves. It was believed that the children's tears would bring on rain and therefore good harvests. A lack of tears would be an ill omen, and therefore the god would inflict storms and terrible harvests. The child sacrifices would therefore be made to cry. They would be frightened by the priests, and even physically harmed to induce tears. There were 3 main ways of sacrificing these children. As befitting the god of water, many children were drowned. They would be submerged in mountain pools or lakes deemed sacred. In other cases, they would have their throats sliced, their blood and life force feeding the earth. Often, the dismembered body parts were buried or fed to animals. Some sacrifices were burned alive in the mountain shrines to Tlaloc. As many as 40 children would be sacrificed in a single day. The bodies of those sacrificed to Tlaloc were often buried with seeds planted in their flesh, ready to sustain new life. It's difficult to know for sure just how many people each year were sacrificed. Accounts and evidence varies, but estimates are as high as 80,000 a year. The sort of person who was sacrificed varied greatly. Many were captured in what were termed flower wars. These were ritualistic battles where the goal was not conquest or destroying an enemy. Rather, it was to capture as many enemy warriors as possible to be used for human sacrifices. Warriors were seen as a fitting sacrifice for the gods, with their courage and martial prowess fueling the cosmic battle. The battles of the Flower Wars took place at predetermined locations, and warriors entering knew the risks and the rewards. They would gain great acclaim for each person captured, but well aware and accepted that if they were captured, they too would be sacrificed. Many captured warriors would even go willingly to the sacrificial altar, understanding their death would mean the continuation of the world and their spilled blood in payment of the great cosmic debt. Another source of human sacrifice would be slaves, whether captured in battle or otherwise in bondage. In times of desperation, like extreme famine or drought, noble members of Aztec society would be sacrificed to show their city's devotion. What is truly disturbing is the willingness to accept the need for human sacrifice. There are accounts of prisoners from the Flower Wars being freed by the Spanish, but still unwilling to flee. They believed in their purpose and the necessity to be sacrificed to the gods. The concept of a debt to the gods and the acceptance of their fate led many to go willingly to the altar. It should be noted, though, that not all did so. There are accounts of some human sacrifices needed to be held down by the priests. There are even accounts to suggest that hallucinogens were used to stupefy the sacrifices, making them more compliant. Whilst the concept of cosmic debt undoubtedly fueled the large-scale human sacrifices, other explanations have also been explored. Some anthropologists have suggested that the Aztec diet was deficient in protein, and therefore ritualized human sacrifice and cannibalism was used as a supplement. Another more plausible explanation looks to the political situation. The Mexica people were able to dominate the region and other cultures of central Mexico. Part of their domination could have been the terror tactics of human sacrifice. It's understood that these people increased the scale of human sacrifice. The cult that developed imposed a duty of sacrifice and war, encouraging expansion of the Aztec Empire. It has been suggested by some that this was the key motivation in the human sacrifices, with the religious foundations being overshadowed. It should be noted that much of what we know about the Aztecs and their human sacrifices comes from those who conquered them. Hernan Cortez's accounts detail the thousands of human skulls kept on racks as important mementos to the sacrifices, and how the steps of the Templo Mayor were caked in gore. But some accounts, such as the Codex Borgia, were produced with assistance from Aztec writers and artists. The archaeological evidence of human sacrifices is plentiful. From the thousands of skulls discovered to the mass graves of child sacrifices bearing evidence of slit throats, human sacrifice was a fact of Aztec life. But it's difficult to know exactly the scale. The Spanish conquerors could have inflated the numbers of human sacrifices to paint the Aztecs as savage Satanists. This would have allowed the justification for the destruction of the Aztec people and their civilizations. There can be no doubt that Aztec human sacrifice remains one of history's more disturbing phenomena. From the disturbing manner in how people were sacrificed, to the way their bodies were used, to the chilling use of children, the human sacrifices of the Aztecs are hard to comprehend.